Hey. How's everybody doing? Hi. Jacob. Why did I just add an A to the end of Jacob? Jacob. Hi. I should have brought my glasses. Are you guys ready to fucking learn? Julie said my glam is popping. Thank you. My hair's still drying. But, you know, it's that Florida humid curl. We love to see it. Hey, Kels. What lipstick am I wearing? Maybelline. 370. That's my color. Who's ready to learn? Who's ready to learn? Okay, you guys. So, thanks so much for coming. I guess I'll just start off by telling you, if you haven't seen the video, why I'm deciding to do this live. I partnered up with I Am a Voter to create I Am a New Voter, which is basically a voter education campaign to teach us all how to fucking vote, how to register to vote, what we're voting on, who we're voting on, and what all these people do in the government, because I have no fucking clue. I registered to vote in 2016 and realized how hard it was to figure out how to register to vote. And I was living in between New Orleans and LA. I had an Arizona driver's license, which I'm sure a lot of college kids can understand. It's just a confusing process. I got no answers, so I ended up just going and registering for an absentee ballot, which I still never received. So, yeah, we're in class, you guys. I'm glad that you're listening to my album, but we're in class right now. But yeah, I registered for an absentee ballot, never got it, and I felt like it was my fault when Trump won. And I'm sure there's other people that also didn't know how the fuck to vote in 2016 that were first-time voters. So I just wanted to make sure that we all are educated on how to vote, how to register, and that it was easy to understand, because I don't understand half the shit I read. Nothing makes sense. The vocabulary is too big. I have no idea what a governor even does. I don't even really know what the president does. Really couldn't tell you. I just know that he's a president. So I'm going to bring on Kat Calvin. Kat Calvin is the founder of Spread the Vote, a nonprofit organization that helps people obtain IDs for jobs, housing, medical care, and voting. She's an expert on voting rights. In addition to Spread the Vote, Kat also founded Project ID Action Fund, which fights for the 21 plus million Americans without IDs through advocacy, lobbying, endorsements, and systematic policy change. And lastly, Kat sits on the board of directors for California Women's List and OMG WTF, and co-hosts Vote, the podcast. So I'm going to find her, which, I'm a grandma already. This is going to be kind of difficult. Kat, if you can request again so I can see you. Oh, wait, actually, I might be able to see it here. Oh, I see. And Kat is also a boss-ass bitch. So here she comes. When I'm asking Kat these questions, she's going to answer a lot of stuff for us in really plain language. If you have any other questions that I'm not getting, or you want clarification on something, please type some questions in the bottom. Hey!
Hi.
How you feeling?
I'm good. Excited to be here.
Yay! Are you ready to teach us? Because I'm ready to learn.
I am always ready to teach people about voting. Even if you didn't ask, I'd probably still do it. So let's go.
I love that. I was just telling people if they have any other questions, please feel free to comment. I'm sure Kat has all the answers, or if she doesn't, she'll look it up with us because she is amazing. Okay, Kat, can you just tell us a little bit more about yourself and what inspired you to want to do this for your life's work?
That's a big question. Sure. So I'm sort of a serial social entrepreneur. But in 2016, we saw a presidential election that was the first presidential election since 1965 that didn't have the full protections of the Voting Rights Act, which is when you see all
Mm,
the civil rights movement, the marches, and the March on Selma, a big part of that was trying to fight for the right for Black Americans to vote. And when we won the Voting Rights Act, it actually opened up the opportunity for a lot of different groups to vote. And then the Supreme Court in 2013 took a lot of it away. And so when I saw the effect on everyday voters, and especially Black and brown voters, young voters, low income voters in 2016, I thought, all right, we have to do something. And one of the new types of laws that really blew up after the Voting Rights Act was gutted was voter ID laws. Voter ID laws basically mean that your state, and 36 states across the country do this, require some form of ID in order for you to vote, which seems
yeah.
logical, except that there are over 21 million people in this country who don't have ID. And a lot of them are people experiencing homelessness, they're returning citizens, they're students, they're domestic violence survivors. They're all people who deserve to have their voices heard and who get cut out by this process. So at Spread the Vote, we
Mm,
help people get IDs, we help educate them about voting, and then we help them get to the polls.
wow, that's amazing. I didn't realize so many people didn't have IDs.
Yeah, it's nobody really understands the huge problem. And the thing is, if you don't have an ID, you can't vote, you can't get housing. You know, COVID testing a lot requires ID now. Homeless shelters require it a lot in order to give someone a bed for the night. Like, you need it for a bank account, everything that you need to do in life. And especially if you want to pull yourself up out of poverty, take care of your family, you need an ID for it.
Wow. I mean, that's wow, that's crazy. I really didn't know that, and that's good to know. Um, and also, IDs weirdly were something that was making my situation very difficult too, because I didn't
Yeah.
have the ID that was in my state, so that obviously made it very tough. Which I can understand probably for a lot of people that are in college right now. They probably have IDs from wherever they're from originally, and they're not living in that state. So I can see where that confusion could be. um, okay, awesome. Can we get into some of the questions?
Of course, let's go.
Okay. Wow, I love being a student. This is so great. I was like definitely a teacher's pet in school, but I asked so many fucking questions. So this is like my dream come true. Okay. So I'll just start with first of all, I just want to tell people if you haven't registered to vote yet, I'm going to ask Kat maybe some other ways that you can register to vote some other places. But if this one is really easy to remember. If you just go to kianaledé.com/vote, I have the I am a voter voter registration like literally on my website. It's right there. It's super easy, super simple. It takes like 2 minutes. So what are some other ways that you can find out if you're registered to vote, Kat?
So the best way after going to Kiana Ledé's website is to go to your state DMV, which you can just Google, Indiana DMV, or it's usually your state abbreviation .dmv.gov or whatever. I know in some states it's called a different thing. You know what it is in your state. But if you go to your state DMV, that is where you can register to vote. It's where you can check to make sure you're registered. It's where you can change your address, which is really important. If you've moved, then you need to be sure that your address is updated. It's where you can do sort of all of that voting related stuff. So even after you register on Kiana's site, you're going to want to go on your DMV site to make sure that your address is updated, to just check right before the voter registration deadline, like a week or two before, and just make sure you're registered, make sure nothing went wrong. You just want to stay updated on that.
Okay, good to know. And I'm gonna try and put that in a link somewhere. I'm gonna save this live. You guys, I know a lot of you are asking me to save it. I'm gonna save this live and post it. And I'll figure out a way to put that link in there too so people can go back to that link and check it out later on. Okay, let's talk about the different types of voting, because
Yes.
clearly with COVID, it's going to be very difficult for people to do it safely, and there's going to be a lot of anxiety surrounding it and uncertainty. So what are the different ways that we can vote, and can you give us a little explanation on each one?
Absolutely. So the first one that you've probably been hearing a lot about is vote by mail, which goes by a lot of names: absentee voting, mail-in voting, vote at home, vote by mail. It's all exactly the same thing. Even if a certain president says that they're different things, they're not. They are exactly the same thing. What it means is that your ballot gets sent to your house, you vote from home, and then you turn it in a variety of ways that we'll talk about. Now, depending on what state you live in, depends on if you can vote by mail and how easily. So, for instance, I live in California. This year, the governor said, well, we're just going to send our absentee ballots to everybody in the state. So you don't have to do anything. It's the same in Colorado, Oregon, Hawaii, Washington, DC. 9 states plus DC are just sending everybody ballots. In every other state, you either have to request a ballot. So to do that, go to your Board of Elections website. So same thing, just Google, Chicago Board of Elections, the site will come up, and request your ballot. But
Okay.
there are also some states where there are requirements. So in some states, you have to have an excuse, right? So maybe you're sick, which some states are saying that that COVID is an excuse, some aren't. Maybe you are going to be out of the country. If you have a disability, you can vote by mail in all 50 states. So no, you don't have to sort of worry about what type of disability, whatever. You can vote in all 50 states if you have a disability. And so what it's important to do is when you go on your Board of Elections site, they will tell you what the requirements are. And then you can just look, and a lot of states will say anybody can vote by mail, just request it here. Some may say here are the things that you have to qualify for. And so you just check, and if you qualify for it, I really, really recommend this year that if you can vote by mail, you do. And for a few reasons. One, obviously, there's still a global pandemic. And so the more we can stay at home, the better. And because there are a lot of people, for a variety of reasons, who can't vote at home. Maybe they have a disability, maybe they're people experiencing homelessness. And so the more that people who can vote at home do, then it leaves the polls open for people who can't. So after vote by mail, there's early voting. 47 states have early voting, which means that election day is not the only day you can vote. You can vote, depending on the state, up from a month ahead of time to 2 weeks ahead of time. Again, you can go on your Board of Elections website and see your early voting dates, or just Google Indianapolis early voting. It'll come up. But what's great about that is that you don't have to go stand in line on November 3rd for 6 hours. You can go 2 weeks ahead on a Wednesday, or a lot of states have Saturday and Sunday or one or the other voting, so you can vote on a weekend. Also, for early voting, you don't have to go to an assigned polling place. You can go anywhere. So, in Nevada, they have early voting at the mall, right, on a Saturday. So they do things to make it easy. But early voting, when you hear that term, it means any day that you can vote before November 3rd. And then, of course, there's election day voting, which means that on election day, on Tuesday, the November 3rd, you're going to your assigned polling place. For most places, if you live some places like Los Angeles, you can still vote anywhere, but it means that you're voting on election day.
Okay. So when you're going to vote, are those the same places that you're voting in early voting? Okay. If I'm an early voter, if I'm like, I'm going to vote early, am I going to the same place as what election day would be?
So that depends on your county. In most
Okay.
places, no. In almost every state, they'll have different places for early voting, and you can go to any of them. And then on election day, you're assigned. In some places, even on election day, you can go anywhere. So that is a thing that now most of your counties are going to send you notices. Like, we're already getting mail in Los Angeles giving you this information, but that's a thing you can look up on your Board of Elections site and just see where can I vote, and they'll give you all that information.
Wow. Okay. Wow. You guys, I'm sorry, I'm a processor, so I'm just making sure I don't have any other follow-up questions about all this information. But if you do, again, please just put your questions in the little question and answer box thing. Let me just make sure
And
that
actually,
people don't
someone
have any.
someone in the contents just asked a really good clarifying question. So they asked, just for me to clarify early voting on election day. So in all 50 states, It's a constitutional right. All 50 states, all 7 territories, you can vote on November 3rd on election day. But in 47 states and most of those territories, you can also vote early. So it's not an either or. You can always vote on election day. But in almost every state except for 3, you can vote early as well.
Okay. And what about provisional ballots or challenge ballots?
Yeah.
I'm just kind of, I seen that when I was researching, and I have no idea what it is. And I've never heard of it
Yeah.
before
So
until I like.
provisional ballots are a thing most people never have to worry about. So that's why you don't hear a lot about them. But basically, when you show up to vote, depending on where you are, they may ask for your ID and you may not have one. Or you may go to the wrong polling place, but you don't want to drive all the way to the right one. Or you may they may not, your signature may not match. Like there's all sorts of different reasons. Basically, if you show up at your polling place to vote and for some reason they can't give you the regular ballot because they're like, I'm sorry, you don't have your ID. This is a voter ID state. I can't give you a regular ballot. What they'll do is they'll give you something called a provisional ballot. And what that means is it's exactly the same ballot. It's just a different color usually. You'll fill it out. They'll put it in a separate box. And then you will have a different amount of time depending on the state to go to your usually county clerk's office or board of elections office and, bring your ID or, cure the ballot in whatever way, try to solve whatever the problem is. And then they'll say, okay, you brought it, we can identify that that's you, and then they'll count it. So it's very rare. There are some states that only have maybe 100 provisional ballots a year. There are some bigger states where maybe they have 100,000, but it's out of millions and millions of voters. It's a way to make sure that people can still vote and that if they can take whatever step they need to qualify their ballot, that it gets counted.
Okay. But it's very rare.
Yeah, it doesn't
You
happen
said, but it's
often.
very
And
rare.
the best way to make sure you don't have to vote with a provisional ballot is to make a voting plan, look up all of the rules ahead of time, write them down and say, all right, I know I need an ID. I know, I need to go to this polling place, right? Make sure you go to the right place. If you make a plan and know exactly what you're supposed to do, then when you walk in, you'll be all set and you'll be able to vote normally.
Okay. What would you say is like the obviously all of it is important to remember, but like what do you think is like the most important thing to remember when you're voting by mail? Like the little intricate things that people make the most mistakes on.
Read the directions. You guys, I can't say this enough. So the biggest thing people don't do is they don't sign the back of the envelope. You have to sign the back of your vote by mail envelope. It's just a thing you have to do. Over 500,000 absentee ballots were thrown out during the primary season, and a lot of it was because people didn't read the freaking directions. So read the directions, sign the back of the envelope. Don't use hot pink pen. Don't draw pictures on your ballot. The number of people who turn in ballots and they like drew Mickey Mouse. Don't do that. Don't draw pictures. Follow the directions. And then look, because in a lot of states, you may have to include a copy of your ID. You may have to get witnesses. You may have to get it notarized. So again, you need to make a plan because you have to read the directions and you have to follow all of them or they will not count your vote by mail ballot.
I would definitely be the person that's like signing my signature with hot pink glitter pen and like
if you do that, I will personally come for you.
Okay. I mean, you said 500,000, so that's 500, right? I wasn't good at math either. That's why we're in this class. I am so shocked by that. And that was probably mostly young people. People, we just be doing that thing.
Young people are 5 times more likely to have their ballots thrown out than any other group. 5 times.
Wow. All right, you heard it. So, bitches, read the fucking directions.
Yes.
Read the directions. Okay, that's good to know. Let me think about my next question. Okay, I really want to get into voter eligibility because I I seen this thing where Snoop Dogg said that this would be his first year voting because he always thought that because he was incarcerated before he couldn't vote, but that's not true, and he found out that that's not true. So what happens if you have like a charge, or you've been incarcerated before, or like what makes you eligible in that, and what
Yeah.
makes you not
So
eligible?
I'm gonna give you a website that's really important to remember. RestoreYourVote.org. So RestoreYourVote.org is the Campaign Legal Center's website that you can go on and you can look. They'll guide you through the exact state rules for when you can vote as a returning citizen. So it's important to
Mm,
know in almost every state, except I think two, you can vote as a returning citizen, even if you committed a felony, after a certain set of rules, right? So usually you have to be off papers. Usually in some places, right, Florida now, we lost a big lawsuit, so you have to pay fines and fees. Like there are different rules. But you can vote at some point. It's also important to know that a lot of times you can vote without following any rules. So we run a program that we're doing this year called Vote by Mail in Jail, where we're helping people who are incarcerated vote, because there are actually hundreds of thousands of people who are in jail right now who can vote. So for instance, if you are in jail because you just can't post bail, which there are hundreds of thousands of people in this country who are just in jail just because they don't have enough money for bail, they haven't been convicted of anything. Well, you haven't been convicted of anything. Almost everywhere you can vote, right? If you're in jail because you convicted a misdemeanor, almost everywhere you can vote. We don't take the right to vote away from people who convicted misdemeanors in almost every state, you know? So it's really important to know that the vast majority of Americans who have served any time can actually vote, and can actually vote today. And if you did commit a felony, if there are, some extenuating circumstances, the chance is that you either can vote now or you'll be able to vote soon. And so if you go to restoreyourvote.org, they'll walk you through exactly what those rules are. And a lot of you will be surprised by the fact that you could actually vote this year.
wow, that's amazing. That's great to know. You guys, please take advantage of this website. If you know anybody who has not been convicted of a crime or have been previously incarcerated and is able to vote and needs to know if they are able to vote, send it to them. If you have any loved ones, or you got like a pen pal or a friend or your uncle, whoever, send them this website so they can see. That's really, really interesting to know. And I'm really glad that Snoop Dogg is voting this year. Like, go Snoop
Me
Dogg,
too.
you know?
Good job, Snoop.
Okay, and then what is the best way to vote for out of state students? Like
Mm-hmm.
students that are on campus right now, which is kind of confusing, especially with Corona, but like students that are on campus at this moment in
Everything's
time.
confusing this year. I was really confused about this when I was in college. So if you're a student, 90% of the time you have two options. One, you can vote absentee for your home state. So if you're in college in Texas, but you're from Alabama, you can vote absentee for, well, Alabama's a difficult state. Let's say if you're college in Texas, but you're from Vermont, you can probably vote absentee in almost every state, even probably Alabama. If you're going to be out of town, right? If you aren't going to be in your town on election day, you can vote absentee. You can, however, also vote in the state you're in most of the time because you're a temporary resident. Or at some point, depending on how long you've been in college, you may be a permanent resident. So you have those two options. This is again, and one thing that makes voting confusing in America is that all 50 states have different rules, and then all the counties in those states also have their own rules. So there is very often not a rule that I can say, well, this is for everybody. But what I can do is direct you to the place that will help you. So, this is again, I say the Board of Elections website all of the time. The Board of Elections website is your best bet for information. Also, follow them on Twitter. Boards of elections are really trying to tweet out information, but then nobody follows them. And it makes them very sad. They're really working hard and they have no followers. So go to your local Board of Elections, follow them, send them some love. They're really stressed right now. They're doing everything. They don't get
Damn.
paid enough and they don't have enough staff. So follow them, send them a little heart gift. But your Board of Elections will be able to give you that information for your state and help you figure out. And also, again, do a Goog. Google is your friend, and you can just do a Google and say, how can I vote as an out-of-state student? And you'll get a ton of different resources and a ton of different guides. But it's important to remember that you can vote as a college student if you're in a different state, and that most of the time you can either vote absentee for your home state or you can vote in the state you're in.
Wow. See, this is why it's so important to have this information, because when I called and I told her that I was like living in between two states, she was like, well, you can't vote in Arizona because that's illegal, and you can't vote in California because you don't have a California driver's license. So I guess you're just kind of out of luck. And I was just like, okay, but this is why we need stuff like this. And this is why we need people like you, because now I have the information and I can share it with my friends and be like, actually, she was wrong. That girl who worked at the Secretary of State office was dead wrong. This is actually what you can do. So thank you for doing that. Okay, so
and
you
you
would
know
say,
what? I'll say, oh, God.
No, go ahead.
It's important to do your own research because, sometimes we as a voting rights organization will call the Secretary of State office to clarify some information, and they'll give us wrong information. And we may have to call a couple times or get a lawyer to call them to figure it out. And boards of elections offices, they're really overwhelmed, they're really tired, and sometimes someone calls with a complicated problem and they may not know the answer. So it's really important to do your own research, verify. If someone says you can't vote, I always tell people, check 2 or 3 times at 2 or 3 different places to make sure that's true, because you want to do everything you can to make sure that you can vote, and you don't want someone to give you wrong information and that just stop you from voting.
Yeah, 100%. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you. Okay. We're kind of running out of time, so I want to just go a little bit quicker on my end. Okay, I'm getting carried away with the questions. What is on the ballot besides presidential shit?
Oh my God, so much. So the president, it's one line out of a lot. So first of all, local and state elections are so important. 75 to 80% of the decisions that are made that affect your life are local and state. So the president makes big decisions, right? Foreign policy, immigration, and even most of those, 99% of those, Congress has to make those decisions too. And your House of Representatives, that is a local election. But you have governor, which is the president of your state. You have Secretary of State, who is in charge of voting in your state. So it is really important that you know who that is. You know what the comptroller is? The comptroller is the accountant for your state. The comptroller is the person who's in charge of all the money for your state. You kind of want to know who that person is, right?
That's literally made up. I think you made that up.
Yeah. Nobody has any idea what the comptroller does, but that person should be your best friend, you know? But there's also the mayor, right? And the mayor is the person who appoints the police chief in most places. So if you don't like how the police are operating in your state, then you need to vote out the mayor. They also appoint the police commission. The district attorneys determine who gets sentenced or who gets charged with crimes and who doesn't. So they decide whether or not, I don't know, white men who shoot a young black boy in their back as they're running away get charged or not. That's the district attorney. So if you think maybe there's a criminal justice problem in your area, the district attorney is the person you need to vote out. In Los Angeles, we incarcerate more people than almost any other city, and it's a district attorney problem. So now we're trying to vote her out. You know, there's also the board of supervisors. They are in charge of your county. They are wildly powerful. Our Los Angeles County is the biggest county in the country. It's the 6th largest economy in the world. The board of supervisors is 5 people in charge of basically a small country. Not even that small, right? 5 people. Nobody's in charge of them. So you need to vote for your board of supervisors, right? You know, you also have people like the Secretary of Agriculture, which you may think isn't important. First of all, agriculture is food, so it's the most important thing to me. But also in states like Florida, the Secretary of Agriculture decides how guns move through your state. So if you care about gun control, you need to care about the people who run it, and that's a state decision. It's not a federal government can do some things, but states can decide whether guns can come in, how they can go out, what kinds of guns, how they move. So it's really, really important that you vote for your local and state offices, that you know who they are and what they do, which you can do at Google. You can go, Spread the Vote puts out election guides for the 12 states that we operate in. You can see them at spreadthevote.org. They'll be up in a few days. I'm very excited. And we describe what the different offices are that are up, but those are important. And then the last thing I'll say really quickly, ballot measures. So ballot measures are decisions that people want the state to make that people get to vote on. So for instance, in Florida, in 2018, the state overwhelmingly voted on a ballot measure to amend the Constitution to re-enfranchise over 2 million returning citizens in Florida, to say that people who had been incarcerated could vote, right? We vote on things like, how are we going to fund homeless services in the state of California or whatever? They're really important things that are decided on ballot measures, and they're confusing. They're going to take some time to do a Goog and to talk about it with your friends. I recommend ballot parties. We're doing ballot party trainings on the 18th and 25th if you want to hop on, and you and your friends can all work it out together, because it's not easy, but it's everything on your ballot under president is so critically important.
Wow. Okay. Ballot parties. Wait, tell me more about the ballot parties one more time. I need to hear about this because I'm probably going to attend.
All right. Well, first of all, it's my two favorite things. It's ballots and parties. So you're already winning. This year, we're doing them virtually. And basically, so one of the things that we like to do, and I do this with my friends, is there's a lot of stuff on the ballot. And ain't nobody got time for that. And it's all really confusing. And so what we do is we'll have a group of friends and we'll separate the ballot. And we'll say, okay, you're going to research these 2 ballot measures, and you're going to research these 3 offices, and you're going to look up these 5 judges or whatever. And then we all get together. Back in the day when we could leave our houses, we'd have a real party. But now we all BYOB and we show up on Zoom and we talk about it. And everyone will go through and say, hey, I researched this ballot measure. This is what it means. This is what these 2 sides are saying. This is what I think. And then we'll talk and we'll debate. And then everyone will fill out their ballot as they go. And then if you have a mail-in ballot, you filled it out at home already with your friends, you can pack it up and send it. And if you have a sample ballot, which you'll get a sample ballot in the mail, then you can take that sample ballot to your polling place. You've already got all the answers filled out, and you can just fill it in at the polling place and vote right there. So on the 18th and 25th, we're doing free ballot party trainings, and we'll teach you how do you plan it? How do you get your friends to attend? What kind of great tools are there? I recommend another website, ballotready.org. They have a really great tool that will walk you through everything on your ballot. And so we'll talk about all sorts of different things to help you plan a really good virtual ballot party for your friends and family.
Amazing. I checked out ballotready.org and I was blown away. I fucking love that website. It's so amazing because it really breaks down everything. It's super plain language. It is just really easily laid out. Like I said, I'm a grandma, so to be able to just press a button and see all the information, you can see who they're endorsed by or what they endorse.
It's who they're endorsed by. So for instance, so that's actually a good thing. And Ballot Ready will be at the ballot parties with us and vote captain. So they'll walk you through the tool themselves. So endorsements just means that people say, hey, this is the candidate we like. So you can see who did the NRA endorse? Who does, on the other side, Moms Demand endorse? Or who does the Sierra Club endorse because they think they're really good at climate change? Or who does our org, Project ID Action Fund, endorse because we think that they really care about people in poverty and people without IDs? And so it's just a way of organizations who either believe in a certain issue or candidates, right? Like President Obama always puts out a list of endorsed candidates where they say, this person believes what I believe. So if you believe what I believe, I recommend that you vote for this person.
Right. And I love that they put like direct quotes from different articles and different things that each candidate has said, because you can really see the information for yourself. It's unbiased because it's really just a factual thing that they said.
Yep.
Yeah. So in the website, go check that out if you want to see. Oh, it's by zip code.
I think it's ballotready.org, O-R-G.
Oh, yeah, you're right, actually. Sorry. Ballot Ready. Let me fix this. .org. Okay, let me do this so you guys can see. Okay, amazing. And then is there any other socials, government socials that we should be following besides the Board of Elections?
I'm a Board of Elections stan, so I love them. But yeah, so your Secretary of State's in charge for voting for the whole state, so you want to follow them. And then the other thing I always recommend, speaking of, unvarnished information, follow the candidates who are on your ballot, who you're thinking about voting for, because people are real honest on Twitter. People are so honest on Twitter, I worry that they don't understand how the internet works. Like, you can see how do they respond when there's an emergency or a tragedy happens? How do they fight with people who, or respond to people who are, attacking them or who are asking them questions? You get some politicians who people will just ask really good, constructive questions on Twitter and they'll really attack them. Right? You can really see who people are and what they believe in by following them on social media. So if you have two governors you're deciding between, follow them both on social media, and even local candidates. And if you have a local candidate who you really love, follow them on social media because they probably don't have many followers and they need help getting their message out.
I love that. I think the most important thing for us, and I was literally just talking about this with my friends earlier, like we need to be, everyone has an opinion, which is great. We all share information, we spread the word, we educate each other. But I think the most important thing is driving the information and the education and the numbers back to the people who really know what the fuck they're doing. So getting people to follow like Board of Elections and different local candidates and stuff is like probably the most important thing to do so that we can really see what they're all about, like you said.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Can you share with people, do you want to leave like a little goodbye, a little bit of like, this is my Instagram, plug yourself a little bit so people can follow you because what you're doing is amazing. And if you want to hear Goog, do a Goog anymore, please listen to it.
I guess that's not what the kids are saying. So first of all, my biggest takeaway message. I'm a trendsetter now. My biggest takeaway is vote early and make a voting plan. It's so important, and it's going to help you make sure that your vote gets counted and that you do everything you need to do to make sure that your ballot is counted. For us, I'm at Kat Calvin LA on all the socials. My organization is at Spread the Vote US on all the socials. If you have questions, DM us on Twitter. I'm Kat at spreadthevote.org. You can email me. My email's everywhere. If you need an ID, go to our website, spreadthevote.org. There's a big button that says need an ID. We will do whatever we can to help you. We are a resource. We're also doing a lot to try to make sure that people know what the directions are for every state. So look for that on October 1st. We're recruiting poll workers, which is a thing we really need. So, you can check out our website, ask us questions. We're here to help.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything that you do. Seriously, it is much needed for people like me who have no idea what the fuck.
Well, thank you very much for using your platform to help get everybody out to vote.
Of course, thank you. All right, Kat. Everyone say bye, Kat.
Bye.
See ya. Thank you so much.
Thank
bye.
you.
Okay, that was amazing. Did you guys feel like you learned a lot? I feel like I'm on like Blue's Clues or something. I'm like, so what did we learn today? Awkward Butterfly said, if you're voting and the polls are closing, stay in line. Let me see if there's any questions I can answer. Probably not, but I'll try. You guys are trying to like propose right now? Come on. Come on, you guys. Okay, cool. I feel like we answered a lot of these questions actually. It was amazing. Okay, just remember that it's going to be at the same time every week for the next 6 weeks. Next Wednesday, we have the Instagram live session with Ashley Allison, who is the former, I want to read this so I can get it right, former deputy director in the Office of Public Engagement during the Obama administration and currently national coalitions director for the Biden campaign. I'm really excited for this one. I'm really excited for this whole 6 weeks. Let's do this. Let's keep learning. Let's do it. Share it with your friends because your friends should be voting too. Okay. Visit kianaledé.com/vote to register to vote and request a mail-in ballot if you haven't done that yet. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next week.